welcome to the Innertech Sustainability Podcast. Our guest today is Chris from Verdn. Chris, introduce yourself.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Chris from Verdn. Verdn is a very small, young sustainability startup in London. And looking to grow the team after a successful pre-seed fundraise.
Congratulations. And you say small, but small things pack mighty punches. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing the product that you bring to the market. And I'm sure some people are interested to learn a little bit more about the business. So let's go, let's hit it. Let's go from here. I've got a few questions, and the idea of these questions is to kind of show people a bit more about what you're about and hopefully get more of your personality across. So can you give me a quick overview of your company and what it is you do?
Yeah, absolutely. The sort of the way we frame ourselves internally right now is sort of a sustainability as a service sort of business. What we do essentially is that we have a Shopify app, and we also have now an API. And what we do is we allow businesses to sort of embed small positive impact onto their transactions. So a simple example of that would be an e-commerce store that would want to maybe plant trees with their t-shirts. That's a simple use case. And then there are way more advanced use cases that are made possible, for example, with the API that we now have. And the other sort of flip side of what we're doing is that we have a lot of focus on the transparency of the impact. So we if a person buys a t-shirt that plant trees, we actually send them a branded dashboard, branded to the company that sort of explains where and when those trees are planted on that end customer's behalf, creating, engagement, creating transparency, and hopefully value.
Do you know what? And that doesn't sound like anything else we've seen on the market, which explains why you've been successful in your pre-seed, because there's nothing quite like little and often impacts, yes, of course, but something that then gives a wider scale impact. So hugely impressive. And speaking of impact, of course, what kind of impact do you see this type of solution having?
Impact for the world or the businesses?
Hey, if we're here for the world, so let's talk about where the benefit is, because we can talk about the benefit to the employer, but I can see more for the planet.
Yeah, the word impact is used so much in our internal sort of communications as well. Impact for the business is really how we, make it, number one, easy, make it cheap and then actually give them this sense of doing something positive and tangible. But then beyond that is obviously creating impact also in terms of then end customer engagement, customer potentially repurchase rates, all that stuff, all under the umbrella, right, of having actually trees going into the ground or plastic being picked up from the sea or whatever else. It all sort of means something.
Almost because it's so unique, it's something that's memorable. So you're almost adding an additional USP to the businesses that you represent.
Look, I'm glad you sort of picked up on that, because we have used that line to businesses in our sort of approaching them. We say, look, we want to add this as an additional sort of attribute of your product. And we don't want it to be this distinct, separate thing, like carbon, let's offset your carbon on checkout or something sort of distant. We want it to be this thing that is tied to the product. That's why this tracking dashboard comes in handy, because it has the picture of the product and it says, hey, these are the trees planted because of your t-shirt that you're now wearing. It sort of creates that, lasting sort of relationship, I guess, in the mind of the end consumer.
Anything memorable does, and in the way that you can then benefit the planet, it's hugely impressive. And from that end, we need to talk about what the return on investment is for the customer. So they've paid this extra bit of money. What do they physically see? What happens?
Yeah, so this is if I'm allowed to take like half a step back, we sort of see the industry as the big problem in the sustainability space for the private sector, in our opinion, is that other solutions out there don't create enough ROI. Because if they did, the problems we see would have arguably been solved already, right? If it made money for the businesses, it would have been adopted, it would have been everywhere. So we have this laser focus for the long run to be a company that actually increases the ROI is tangible, it's monetary for these businesses. So that planting a tree with us on every product, our ultimate goal is to prove to them that they actually make that extra sale or make more money net than without using us. And we're sort of halfway there. Our first focus in terms of the ROI, what are we providing today with the tracking dashboards, etc. We see a huge boost in engagement from the end consumers. We have a email click-through rates to our dashboards of like 25%, which is like unheard of when you talk about marketing email. And so companies are no, exactly. So they're ecstatic about that because they have all these eyeballs on their products and their company in the context of this positive impact. And then we have natural boost to like sharing on social media, people screenshotting their dashboard, sharing it. So we have more word of mouth. That's already happening. And then the next step for us in the medium run is to how do we turn that into more revenue for the business to actually make the ROI monetary.
Collect it, understand it, and then improve it, right? It's like all products where we're in the infancy, we're obviously pre-seed, we're developing, we're growing, and got it. We know what we're trying to achieve, and we're working towards it. And huge props to you. It sounds like a passion project becoming something that's fully commercial with such a commercial focus. It's hugely impressive. And the question now is, who's the customer? So who's the forefront of your mind? What's this focus on?
So in the beginning, when we were just doing market research, just chatting, we realized like we wanted to go for relatively small e-commerce stores in the beginning. That was our first segment. And as we were talking to them, we realized most of them were on Shopify. That was true 2 years ago. It's obviously even more true now because Shopify is just exploding. So we made our Shopify app first. So we have a very like simple sort of like no code app that, you know, even a mom and pop shop can sort of play around with and set up arguably, you know, potentially without our help.
Of course.
So that was our first go-to-market strategy. And now we're sort of finally, after a year of being live with that app, we're sort of moving beyond it. So to go a bit broader than your question sort of implied or asked, the API sort of lets us actually attack other industries than e-commerce entirely. For example, we're going to be onboarding hopefully a trading platform so that people that make profitable trades on this platform, part of the commission that the platform takes actually goes straight back into doing something positive for that user. And they can see that as they do good trades, they have a positive impact on the planet. Something completely different.
It's another use case of your product creating another USP for a business outside of e-commerce. Again, you are almost the USP of another business, and that again, blowing me away here. Very impressive. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, but that's where we were. That's where we're going. But yeah, in the beginning, it was all small, medium-sized e-commerce stores, and it's trying to, working really closely with these shops and trying to figure out how can we make something that works for you, having really close dialogues. And luckily, our churn has been really low. Sort of going back to the point you're making about how becoming a USP or becoming part of the value proposition.
Yeah, of course.
It's sort of once they use us, the churn is really low because they don't want to get rid of part of what makes their product good, right? Mm-hmm. So that's led us to have really positive long-term dialogues with basically all our early customers to iterate on the product.
And to really hone this down, because in my head, I'm thinking, why haven't Nike signed up yet, right? Because they care hugely about their impact. There are other sports trainers available and all that, but they hugely care about their impact. And having this offsetting their product would be a kind of go-to for me. But at the same time, Nike could be regarded as a kind of large, non-sustainable business that's taking steps to the right direction. So are the businesses you work with already sustainable, or are they looking to become sustainable? That's the important question.
Oh yeah, that's a good nuance that I sort of missed that I probably should have mentioned in the last one. But as we were going out into market, the low-hanging fruit in our heads were small and medium-sized companies that were already very conscious, very sustainable focused. They were more open to what we had to offer, right? They were more eager to sign up, more eager to try it, more eager to implement it. Now we're sort of starting to see other, non-traditionally sustainable businesses like the trading platform, right? The trading is not associated with sustainability at all, right? And then obviously there's a different needle you have to thread on that when you get into that area, which is, where do you balance, greenwashing claims? How do you become undoubtedly a force for good? without sort of getting, caught down by the expectation of every company having to be perfect from day one, all that stuff. So something like Nike is obviously very interesting and controversial in some sense, right? Because they're taking all these steps. They're still getting a lot of bad press from certain business practices. Where we would slot in and how we would navigate that is an interesting one. I haven't had to deal with it yet, but
it could be a question for another episode if you want, Chris. I think I'd be keen to have you back on anyway and talk about it and talk about how the product develops, because this is
sure.
We're in this for a long run. The planet should be here a little bit longer than both me and you, and we want to make sure we're supporting it. And that's partly what this podcast is about, is raising awareness of sustainable practices we can take. So we'll come back to that one, put a pin in it. There are some good questions here. Do you know what? I wrote down about 30 different questions, and I'm trying to pick the ones that are going to flow us through the best way. And I picked this one then. So how do you see the market evolving in the next, let's go for 3 years, because we know 10 years we can't predict. Let's look at 3.
I really think with basically ever since 2015 with the Paris Agreement, and now we have COP26, like 5 years later, 6 years later, I think we're at the sort of the, what is it called, the start of a wave, the crest of a wave of massive private sector action within this sustainability space. You're seeing it everywhere. Sometimes with good intentions, other times you're just trying to ride the marketing hype of it all. That's always the case. But I think within the next 3 years only, I think certain industries like carbon offset, for example, is just taking off. It's growing exponentially. It's doubling every year. I think there's going to be a regulation that comes in and makes it harder for private sector businesses not to do something. I think pledging with sales, like the way what we're offering, is going to be more and more just expected and demanded by consumers. So I don't know how much of that's going to solidify in the next 3 years, but within where we need to be in 30 and in 10 and 30 years, on a planetary basis, it better start picking up fast.
Yeah, we need the rapid bit, right? We need
all
now.
These graphs are, they're pointing in the wrong direction. And you have all the consumer sentiment sort of already there. So as soon as it becomes viable, profitable for the business, I don't see why it wouldn't have a massive uptake quite quickly.
You touched on a good point there. Arguably, consumers, we're miles ahead. I want to offset my carbon today. I want to plant some trees today. I want to make sure my impact is reduced as much as it can be from today. And typically, my friend, I've not been that way. 5 years ago, I'd want a bigger literage car. I'd want a larger house.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to spend and waste more. I'd eat a bit more meat. So I'm there as a kind of average consumer. Why do you think business is lagging behind, not trying to get up there?
No, I think they definitely would if the options were there that didn't threaten their bottom line at all, right? It's classic business 101. Anything that hurts the bottom line. You have all these arguments out there like, hey, if you go green, it's actually going to improve customer satisfaction, all these things. That's all well and good. But if they can't put a number on it, if there's still uncertainty, they're going to lag behind, or they're going to do something ostensibly great, but it's more marketing than actual real action. They're going to try and get the benefit without actually putting in the hard work. That's where something like, hopefully, our solution and
that was my bit to clarify is that solution. You actually can put the print on it that says we've saved you, we've helped you customers, we've brought your customers back, we've saved the planet a little bit more, and we've improved your customer retention.
I think that's what we want to be, and with the tracking dashboards and stuff, and the work we're doing with the NGOs on the other side, bringing in that transparency.
Yep.
That is sort of the other side of the coin that we're trying to solve, right? If we get that level of data that's normally obfuscated, make that clear and give that to the companies and the end customers so that everyone can see, oh, this is actually real. This company is doing something. I can see what they're doing versus whatever this marketing campaign is over here that is a lot of smoke and mirrors. That benefits everyone, including sort of us being like a sort of finance mechanism for these NGOs, right?
No, and a solid answer there. For the technical product, and I'll keep this one brief because it's probably something I need to speak to you about. Are there any barriers for implementation? How simple is it to get Verdn on board on your Shopify cart or your profile?
So the Shopify app is extremely simple to use. I think if you know what you're doing, as in you've maybe dabbled a little bit in code before, there's actually to clarify, there's only one point you actually need to dabble in the code at all, which is to install a little badge that goes on the product page saying, hey, this product plants 5 trees or whatever. Okay. If you know how to install that badge yourself, you can get going with our app in 3 to 5 minutes. It's really that easy.
And start saving stuff today.
Exactly. And if you don't do that, there's part during the onboarding that says, hey, can you install this badge for us? And we'll do it as soon as it comes in. So it's really hands off. The API is slightly more elaborate, as it's obviously a custom implementation where you start, doing it all on your back end. But even that, it's been Rory, my co-founder, has been doing an extremely good job at creating an API that's simple, minimal, very versatile, and sort of, he has this ideal in his head that he wants to be as robust and beautiful as the Stripe API, and he's like obsessing over it, and it's turning out really, really well for its release.
As I said to Rory the other day, he makes beautiful websites, so I assume the code is beautiful and the product's beautiful. So it all ties in. And
that was you, was it?
It was me, yes. Yeah. No, it's fine.
See. All right. Okay, we were wondering who that was.
We'll bring that back round to the kind of final question about the business, because this is where I think it's quite important to understand. You're now hiring. As we've mentioned, we've talked about it. We're going to try and help you, but let's hope you fill it yourselves. You've got 2 vacancies at the minute. What's the key and single most important thing of anyone joining your business? What attribute do they need to have? I don't mind about skills. We can talk about skills all day. Let's not give the code away. What do you want from someone's personality, so to speak?
I mean, it's such a good question, such a tricky question. We're asking ourselves this, right, basically on a daily basis, because we've had people in to interview. Yeah, and sometimes their skills seem to be there, and it's sort of that intangible aspect. I think we don't mind a personality that can be sort of like different than ours, right? That's totally cool. But there's something about, I guess, that sense of you need to want to drill down and really be. I basically want someone that appreciates what we're trying to build, and realizes that if they put all their heart and soul into it, they're actually going to be building something every day that has an impact that they can actually measure every day.
I'm going to go with passion then. I reckon that feels like passion to me.
It needs to be passion. I think like the 2 of us, Rory and I, there is a lot of passion behind this project. It's the originator of all the hard work and the dedication we put into it. So we don't mind if somebody has a sort of a different way of approaching problems, or a different way of, when they want to show up for work or whatever. It's more about that they're fully committed to making something that could have a real chance of, being part of where we want the world to be rather than where it is.
Personally, I'm sold. If I was a developer, I'm in, but unfortunately I'm not. So we kind of move on, and I really appreciate the insight, and I'm sure the people watching this will appreciate the insight into Verdn. And I really, really do wish you the best in the product and the product cycle and the impact that's going to be felt. My next important question comes down to you, Chris, because people that are watching this are going, yeah, cool, I like the business, but what's Chris? Who is he? What's he about? And now I know you're Norwegian. We talked about that. We talked about your background, but I want to ask some quick fire, quite interesting questions. What's your favorite bit of software that you use? You can't say Verdn.
Okay, 2 answers to this.
No.
So the cop out easy answer is probably just like Slack, just because even though there's 2 of us in the business, Slack channels for everything. Rory loves making a good bot that sort of does something and pings up something, when a new client installs our app, big confetti and everything. And then the cooler answer, I guess, is that Rory actually made a custom plugin for my browser, so that if I go to a website that uses Shopify, I can make a branded tracking demo for what one of their end customers would get if they bought a certain product. I can make that in like a minute, and I can send it to them like effortlessly. He made that, and it's become such a. I mean, I love showing it to people because it just reflects well on him, reflects well on us. But but the response rate on it is great, right? Instead of
Of
sending up
course
some,
it
it's
is.
not some cold email anymore. It's like, hey, I just mocked this thing up for you really quick, and it looks like it would have taken us an hour, but it took us like 30 seconds. So.
I really hope that they find Verdn the most interesting part of this podcast, because I have, but I'm damn sure that's a trade secret you've just given away there. And Rory's going to be inundated with a few more customers for a product he didn't even know he built. So
Yeah, maybe he'll open source it. Who knows? He's one of those, the dev mindset of like open sourcing everything. So.
And we also talked about this the other day, but the best piece of tech you've ever bought, and I said you couldn't say your AirPods, but if you really want to, you can back the AirPods.
You know what? Okay, so Rory and I, we've been on MacBook Pros that we bought back in 2015, and we've been working on them since then through thick and thin. And then when we closed the round like 6 weeks ago,
Yep.
we finally decided to upgrade. We waited for the M1 Pro to be released.
Yep.
Got 2 of those in. So I'm on that one right now. It's my first week of it. It's a beautiful machine. So I think it's the most excited I've been for a piece of tech in many a year.
I've got a 16-inch one, and I quite enjoy it. So yeah, no, I can get with that. So next one, working patterns. It's probably quite important to any prospective employee, but also from a customer service end. Are you the night owl, or are you the day shift?
I'm the morning and the day shift. I try, like, I'm trying to be that person that goes to bed early, gets up early, try to be in the office even at 7 a.m, just trying to get stuff done. Rory's the complete opposite. He'll come in later. He'll be he'll be coding at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, whatever needs to happen.
You on Slack.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we're the complete opposites in that sense, which I think, well, the good part of it is that anyone that comes in now, whenever they want to work, there's someone else online.
Either end, right? I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. This is got to be my favorite one, and sum it up for me. The motto that you live by.
Okay, so again, this is actually Rory's the one that instilled this into the company culture, and it's the simple under promise, over deliver.
And when we talked about that the other day, that was in recruitment. I think that's always been key. I always over promise and over deliver. So whatever, we can work with me if you like, but absolutely, always. And do you know what? I live by that as well. Couple more quick ones, mate. We've got to wrap this one up. But how do you stay focused?
Oh God.
If you say coffee, it's a cop out.
How do I stay focused? I don't know. Put on some chill atmospheric music, and I use my inbox as a to-do list, sadly. And then I've started to get back into the Pomodoro method, which is like forced focus. But yeah, that seems to work.
And then swiftly into Apple or Microsoft, because Apple have definitely just built an app that makes you focus. So do I have to say it for you? Pick a side.
I'm an Apple guy, I'm afraid.
Fine. So this one's relevant for everyone, and it is the final question. Best thing about working in a tech company, startup, whatever you want to call yourselves, what's the best bit for you?
I mean, again, it maybe goes back to my passion, but I think the problem that we're trying to solve, the best part about it is that every day we get to see a number of how many trees are going to go into the ground and how much plastic is going to be picked up from the ocean. We have new projects coming online. That sense of whatever the other metrics are, like even revenue, right, which is always normally very the key. Having that sort of proxy metric on the side that says, well, this is the actual difference that's happening because of us. I think that's the best part. It sort of just puts everything into a context, makes everything sort of make sense, makes you pull that extra hour because it means that number is going to go up and it's going to impact someone else.
You don't start a sustainable tech business if you don't care, and that shines through for sure. And everything you've said so far, you've built a product that actually you want to use, and I'm really envious. You've got something here that is hugely tangible. And to kind of round up, you're currently looking for a senior full stack developer, and you need a junior developer. So I'm going to let you post your advert below. We're going to get it in, and we'll see what comes out, and see if we get some really good people in. And I wish you all the best in business. And look, anyone else looking to join the podcast, get in touch. But we've had Chris from Verdn. Thanks for coming on board.
Thanks.
Cheers.